Today we're having a look at this beauty right here. I love what they did with the refreshed Pathfinder, and this is not your average Pathfinder because this is in fact the more off-road oriented Pathfinder called the Rock Creek, and it's finished in the one and only color that I would pick for this, and that is called Baja Storm. It has this more of a boxy feel than we're used to seeing from the previous generation Pathfinders. I'm glad they went back to this type of styling. So what we're gonna do in this video is of course have a look at the design, the front, the side, the rear, and also the interior before we're gonna take this for a drive. Now, before I jump in and talk about the design, let's pop the hood here and see what's hiding underneath. We have a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6 putting out 290 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque. All of this connected to a 9-speed automatic transmission, so no more CVT for the Pathfinder. I'm really glad to see that. Of course, has 4-wheel drive. 0 to 60 is done in about 6.5 seconds. Fuel economy comes in at 21 city, 26 highway, and the price for this is, I think, a fantastic deal for what you get, because this is about $45,000 for this entire package. Starting with the front and design, and this, as I said, is the Rock Creek, meaning that it is the off-road oriented Pathfinder. I think it looks so good because they did a bunch of different styling features to this design. For example, the entire lower section down here is completely new or specific for the Rock Creek. And look at the headlights here. Yes, we do have some bumper headlights in this case. Full LED for the headlights, but the indicator light, as you can see, is still just a light bulb. I do like this graphic that we have here. Very identifiable for Nissan to have that daytime run light up top. You can see just how far it stretches across the entire side here. So it goes into the fender almost all the way up here with this orange amber reflector light. The hood design, very boxy, and this is, as I said, what I really like about this generation Pathfinder. The previous one looked a little bubbly to me. They definitely brought back the old school styling for the Pathfinder, and I think it looks fantastic. We have the V-motion grille up front with these big blacked out pieces. The entire grille, as you can see, gloss black, also specific for the Rock Creek. You have a 360 camera system. The front mounted camera is located right here. New Nissan badge, and we also have these, which is sort of a throwback to the old Pathfinders, even though these are unfortunately not open. I would like to see these just have some functionality to them, but it's cool that they added that as a styling feature. Now, moving further down, and this is an interesting integration of the fog lights. You can see that the fog lights sit down here, and then we have this big section on the sides of the rear bumper not having any functions at all. It looks like this could either be an open mesh, or we could move this fog light and have it be integrated in this piece. I think that would be a better solution for an integration of fog lights, because looking at it down here, it just looks like it sits there and doesn't have any sort of housing for it. The front end for the Pathfinder, again, looks very cool, and it's definitely recognizable as a Nissan, specifically with the brand new Nissan logo that we have in the front end. Coming around to the side view of the 2024 Pathfinder, and have a look at this design, just how boxy it is, but it still has some very modern features. For example, this muzzle above the rear axle, you have this piece, you see how it smooths in and kind of goes out and creates a bit of a thicker piece over the rear axle. Same for the front end. It's just a beautiful looking design. It looks purposeful, specifically with the Rock Creek trim with these off-road wheels and tires. You have 18-inch wheels. These are not beadlock capable, they just have the beadlock styling around the rims. I think it looks really cool, and I actually like the black wheels in this case. Toyo off-road tires, 265 width on these tires, so they're pretty chunky, and as I said, having this more of an off-road style on the rest of the styling, you gotta have that on the tires as well, and the wheels. We have some cool line flow here because we have two different lines that create some muscle over the bodywork of the car. You see this line right here over the front axle kind of fades right where it meets the side mirror. We have the body color up top and an LED indicator. Beautifully slim indication in the side mirror right here, looking nice. And then you have this line over the rear axle, creates even more of a defined muscle, which I think looks, again, just fantastic how this is implemented in the bodywork and creating this big sharp line that then fades into the rear door. Just beautiful styling by Nissan, and overall I think Nissan these days are just crushing it when it comes to their designs. You also have the blacked out trim for the Rock Creek. So you see all the trim around the windows and so on is all blacked out. Up top you do have a factory roof rack, and this is rated for 200 pounds, so you can put a lot of stuff up there. And again, I think it just suits the overall vibe of this SUV to have a roof rack on top there. Downstairs we do have Pathfinder integrated in the sort of side skirt in this area, stamped into the plastic. Looks good. I don't mind having some matte plastic on this car, since it is the off-road trim, and the wheel arches being matte black, I think is just a good idea. Then you have the Rock Creek logo. It just looks classy and nice and elegant in my opinion. Beautifully done again by Nissan. Another detail I like about this design is the C-pillar. So you have this angle for the C-pillar. It goes from a little thinner up top with this black section kind of cutting this off, and then into thicker at the base. Again, just pointing down to the rear axle above this massive muscle that we have going on here. It just makes it look very, very planted, this design. Now coming around to the rear end, and I'm glad that Nissan did not fall for the temptation of creating a full light bar in this case. We do have very slim taillights. I do love how they wrap around and goes in, follows the exact same muscle line that we have here into the corner of the taillight, creating this beautiful LED going around. Very slim. We still have the light bulb for the indicator in the rear end, but it doesn't really bother me because the overall styling has a very modern touch to it. And I also like these. These sections here is very typical for Nissan now. If you look at the Z, for example, these days, you still have this area right here, but in the front end. So this is one of these identifiers for Nissan these days, to have that sort of cutout in the bodywork. Up top, we do have sort of a decent size roof spoiler up here. Not big enough to house the wiper, but honestly, in this price range, $45,000 for this entire package, I think that's totally fine to have the wiper visible like that. You also have, again, the brand new Nissan logo here in the middle, and you have the Pathfinder stamped out in black. Thankfully, they didn't make this chrome, and then you have the Rock Creek down below. And if we move further down, there's nothing really crazy going on with the diffuser or the exhaust pipes. You have a single exhaust on the right side. You can't really see it right now. And as you can see, this matte black follows all around the wheel arches into the back, side, and front, which is great for this type of off-road vehicle. So let's open up the tailgate and let's see what this is all about. You have 3 rows in the Pathfinder. So it's one of these really big SUVs where you can fit a lot of people in. And if you want to fold these down, it's super easy. You just pull these and then you just grab this handle and fold everything down. It's super easy to just have more space if you don't want to use the third row. That's all you got to do. And then if you want to bring them back up, just grab this strap right here and pull it all the way back, and that's how easy it is to fold up and down the third row seats. But even with them up, I think you have pretty decent space here. You also have more space if you lift this up. So you have even more space underneath this little lid here. Good design by Nissan again. This is not power assisted. Totally fine for me because, again, this price range, I don't really care about that. It's very easy to close it anyway. So with that said, we talked about the exterior design of the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek. Now it's time to jump into the interior and see what's new there for 2024. All right, guys, let's check out the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek, and let's see this interior. So let's fire this up. Start button right there. Everything is beautifully laid out in here. I think it's a fantastic design because we still have the analog gauges, as you can see, in a nicely designed housing for 2024. But we still have the middle screen, and this you can do whatever you want with. So you have a pretty large screen. And for me personally, I don't care that we have analog gauges. As I said before, I think it looks pretty classy because you still have everything you want in this pretty large center display. Up top, we do have this integration of an 8-inch infotainment screen, and this is where I think you can kind of start to see the price cutting in the materials, because all of this, as you can, this whole area is gloss black. If we're gonna have this size of a piece up here, I want to have the screen take up more space, or if we keep this same size, I want to bring these edges in and just not have it stick out so much. But it is a touchscreen. It doesn't look very modern, the graphics in the touchscreen itself, but if we click on the camera button, you're gonna see that we do have the 360 camera, which which looks decent. It's a little small, as you can see in this area, but the rear view camera is very high resolution, and of course it comes with trajectory lines both for the rear and the front. Going back to menu, we have the volume control down here to the left side, and you have the tuning for the radio on the right side. More buttons for the settings inside the infotainment screen, and a lot, as you can see, a lot of gloss black going all around. It's just going to be a lot of fingerprints here because I would much rather have this be in a more matte finish. Very small vents here, but they're laid out in a pretty industrial way, because you can see this entire section is just two lines. Then you have the hazards in the middle, and you have the climate control settings below that. Thankfully, we have big, beefy, sturdy dials for the climate control settings. Here is the dial for the temperature, and you have dual zone in this car. You also have the fan speed right here, and you have heated seats, but you don't have cooled seats. It feels like there's a button missing here for the cooled seats, which I do believe that you get in the Platinum trim. Further down, we do have some storage for your phone, and this is not a wireless charging here, which is pretty interesting in 2024. And all the way in here, you do have the USB-C and the USB with a 12-volt outlet. I do like the design of this gear selector because it feels pretty nice to just grab like this, and it works like pretty much any other gear selector. Push up and you go into reverse, gonna give you the camera view again, and you have drive and park. Button is located right here to the right side. A little bit of chrome coming in here to this design, which is interesting because there is nothing on the exterior that has any sort of chrome in it, but we do have a couple of chrome splashes in here. Here is some sort of storage for your phone, again, to just have it be standing up like this. Two cup holders, and then look at this beautiful armrest. We have Pathfinder up top with the Rock Creek embroidered into this pretty firm armrest. And then if we open this up, you do have a lot more storage underneath here as well. And this is the selector for the drive mode. So we have a bunch of different drive modes, and as we go through them, you're gonna see that it shows up on the center display as well what drive mode we're in. So we have sand, mud rut, snow, auto, eco, sport, and tow. I just like to keep it in auto, but we might go into sport when we take this for a drive later on, because we actually have paddles in this Pathfinder for the 9-speed automatic. Probably not a car that I would use the paddles a lot in, but it's cool that we have them there, I guess. These seats look very beautiful with the orange stitching. You have the Rock Creek again coming back in the seats with some nice texture on the inside and leather on the exterior. It does have just the right amount of bolstering on the sides for this type of vehicle. Door panels looks very industrial as well. Clean styling to this design, and this is the type of colors that I personally want in interiors. Pretty dark colors, but with some nice, just a single contrast stitching like we have here in the doors and also in the logos. So coming around to the steering wheel here, beautiful steering wheel, pretty basic, leather wrapped with the orange on the interior. We do have the controls for the screen, as I just showed you, on the left side of the steering wheel, and you have the controls for the cruise control settings here on the right side with the voice command. Brand new Nissan logo in the center. Again, chrome coming back in the interior here in the steering wheel as well, but we do have some very clean, nice looking chamfers here in the bottom, and a flat bottom steering wheel. This feels like it's taken straight out of the Nissan Z. To the left side of the steering wheel, we do have another vent right here, and that's pretty much it. There is no sunroof in here, which I feel maybe, you know, it should be equipped with, because it is a big SUV. It would be pretty easy, I would say, to implement a sunroof in here for those who want it. Personally, as you know, I don't like sunroofs at all, so I'm totally fine by having it completely empty like this. Last but not least, in the front end, we have another compartment here that is rubberized with the Pathfinder. You can put some big pens, markers here for when you get that urge to sketch, and down below we do have a proper sized glove box. Coming in to the back seats, and you have plenty of space back here. Actually, it's really big. You have two captain's chairs, as you can see, going in behind my own driving position. I feel like I'm sitting very high up in here, but I still have a lot of headroom, and that is thanks to this new boxy 80s style of the design that I love about this car. You have a big pocket here as well, two cup holders, and you have the climate control settings for the second row integrated in this area. Two USBs, USB-C, USB down here, and you have even more cup holders in the center, but now this gloss black comes back in this center portion. You have a couple of armrests here. I wish they were a little beefier than this. Jumping into the third row back here, it is pretty tight when it comes to leg room, because this is pretty much as far as the front seats or the seat in front of me goes. And if this were to be folded up, it would be pretty tight being 6'1" in here. I really like this car. And a lot of that has to do with the price point, $46,000 for this type of design specifically. I love this design. It's such a cool, rugged looking thing, and I love that they went back to that 80s styling that we had in previous Pathfinders. We had sort of a gap between the previous generation Pathfinder, where it got a little smooth, a little more soft and rounded in the corners and so on, but now they went back to this more chiseled, proper looking Pathfinder design that we have in this one. So I have it in auto now, but even with these off-road tires that we have on, what I've been surprised with during my time with this Pathfinder is just how quiet and nice it is. We have to appreciate the interior design for the 2024 model year, because I don't think that this is going to last for the next generation Pathfinder with the analog gauges. Hopefully, I don't know, because it is one of these utilitarian SUVs, purpose-built SUVs, so maybe they keep some of that analog feel in it. I really hope they do. I don't want to see every single car go into pixelated everything in the interior. Now, this being the Rock Creek edition of the Pathfinder, it does sit a little bit higher than a normal Pathfinder. Not even an inch higher, but still, I think that all has to do with the tire size. Maybe that's what actually raises the car up. So let's put it into sport here and put it into manual mode. We're down to first gear, and let's floor it. Sounds really good. 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6. It's hard to go wrong with that when it comes to the noise. It's not the quickest car. It's a Pathfinder. You wouldn't expect that. But 0 to 60 still in 6.5 seconds. Not bad. 290 horsepower. This 9-speed automatic with the shifts. It's, you know, it's not something that I would regularly use, this in manual mode. Maybe just on roads like this every now and then. Down to second. It's pretty quick for what it is. I mean, it's not the quickest shifting automatic for sure, but again, I would not use it in manual that much. It's just so smooth, and it feels like it doesn't have, even if it sits a little bit higher than a Pathfinder, it doesn't feel like it has a lot of body roll. And again, that V6 noise. Oh yeah. The only thing that I would like to change in, for example, in this interior is this infotainment screen. As I said, I would much rather have it be smaller and the frames fit the screen itself, or the screen fit the frame. Not have these big, massive empty spaces that we have in here. It looks pretty cheap, this area. So how do we sum up the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek? I think it's a good car. It's a beautiful looking design from the exterior, with this new boxy design, or new reinvented boxy design that we had in the 80s coming back in a modern form. And I do think Nissan is one of these companies that does this exterior design really nice these days, because they take a lot of inspiration from older models. Another good example is, of course, the new Nissan Z, which is one of the best sports car designs of 2022 up until today that I've seen so far. So overall, the interior as well, it feels, I think this is the area where you can see that they saved some money in the materials. For example, all this gloss black, the screen size compared to the framing of the screen, and so on. But those are details that they're very easy to live with. It's not a big deal, specifically not for $46,000.